what do you guys?
Looks like we got worst characters.
Worst characters.
Worst.
What is that?
This is a bit of a mind.
I'm gonna go with Barbara Wilson, aka Batgirl.
Batgirl
From Batman and Robin.
Robin.
Yeah, she sucks.
Guys, get down in the comments below and let us know who the wild card is going to be. Come back next week, start seeing some of these first round matchups.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back for the second part of round one of Worst Wars.
Gun, gun, gun.
The worst.
Right here we have Clint, who is representing Mutt Williams from Indiana Jones and the Prisoner of
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Crystal Skull.
Boo.
Yeah, agreed.
Ooh, you're supporting his argument. And then we have Cruz with Batgirl from Batman and Robin. Specifically that movie, Alicia Silverstone.
Also boo.
Meh.
You're weak, you stink. Let's face it, you're a douchebag.
The new coin, and it turns out that Cruz, you're going first.
Wait, you have notes. Where are my notes?
Oh, I have so many notes.
Where are my notes?
You need to borrow some of mine.
Classic.
parking
Where are
pass.
my notes?
That's a parking pass. That's not notes.
Can we start? It's 2 minutes now.
There's
while he's looking for
pens.
his
No,
notes?
no, that's not fair. I have notes.
Begin.
No, the cable. Okay. Look, Batman and Robin is one of the worst movies ever made. You've got bat butts, you've got bat nipples, you've got a whole mess of everything. But I would say that Batgirl is one of the worst things about one of the worst movies that's ever been made. And that's partially because Batgirl is a really awesome fucking character. There are many iterations of Batgirl, and all of them are very, very cool. Barbara Gordon Batgirl is she's awesome. She can kick ass, she's really smart, and eventually she goes through some very deep trauma and becomes Oracle. And this Batgirl, Alicia Silverstone, in fucking Batman and Robin, is the only Batgirl that's ever been committed to live action film. That's it. This is an amazing character from a whole deep canon of history and lore has been turned into Barbara Wilson, played by Cher from Clueless, still playing Cher from Clueless, dressing up as a slutty Batman and pretending she knows how to fight. She's clumsy, she's nosy, she immediately reveals her identity to anybody around her. She's supposed to be British, but she forgot her British accent. Nobody knows why Alfred is keeping her a secret. She's basically the Batman universe's version of Christmas Jones from James Bond, because she's supposed to be a super smart computer scientist at her age, who happens to be super hot, but she can't totally complete a sentence. She makes her reactions to everything make no sense. This character ruins a really good character in a really horrible movie.
Time. Batgirl sucks and she forgot to be British. 2 minutes for your opening arguments on why Mutt Williams is worse. Begin.
Here's the thing. If you were to create a Venn diagram where one circle is full of bad characters that make bad movies worse, one circle is all actors that are force-fed to us as the next big thing, and another circle that says these are characters that ruin once great movie franchises. The only character at the dead center of all three of those circles is Mutt goddamn Williams. He's a perfect storm of a shitty character. Now, two of those circles in the Venn diagram are pretty obvious. Crystal Skull, not a good movie. Mutt is not good in it, amid many of other things that are not good. Bracket is full of bad characters and bad movies, like you said, including Batgirl. And at the time, Crystal Skull was at the height of Spielberg trying to shove Shia down our throats with the Transformers and the blah, blah, blah. And that didn't let any of us take his shine to Mutt anyway. But those two circles, not so worried about, right? It's the ruining a once proud franchise thing that I think makes Mutt the worst. Mutt's entire purpose in the movie seems to be reminding us that Indiana Jones is super old. Everything is, hey, Daddy-o, you're not bad in a fight for an old guy, like all the time. Now, this is something that Harrison Ford was doing just fine on his own, and that was one of the biggest problems with the movies. We all knew Harrison Ford was super old. So why put a character in there that's devoted entirely to pointing that out in almost every scene? Even thematically, after Indy finds out that Mutt's his son, he immediately turns into this like crotchety old dude who's writing Mutt about going back to school. In the very last sequence, in the wedding, when the wind blows the hat off and Mutt's about to put it on, and we're all like, no, don't you do it. Don't you put that hat on. Spielberg knew. He knew it was pissing us all off, and so he had Indy swoop in, grab the hat at the last second. He knew it scared the shit out of us, and we're all supposed to think it's funny, but it's not funny. Because Mutt had just spent an entire movie being this blank canvas for us to project all of our insecurities about how our heroes from our childhood are aging and dying and being forced to pass the torch, and that is what Mutt represents, and that's why he's the worst thing that's ever shown up on a movie screen.
Mutt ruined an entire franchise, and he has lame geezer jokes. 1 minute for rebuttal.
Okay, so here's the thing. In your Batgirl, Barbara Wilson's Batgirl actually fits perfectly into your Venn diagram as well. So that's kind of a failure because I think that in terms of ruining a once great movie franchise, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull simply didn't need to exist. Batgirl appeared in the Batman franchises at the height of its glory. Sure, Batman Forever was kind of a mess, and Batman Forever should be looked more as a kids movie. And when you look at it more as a kids movie, it's actually more watchable when you go back to it. Batman and Robin put the nail in that franchise's coffin. Second of all, it was also at the height of Alicia Silverstone getting shoved down our throats because nobody knew what the to do with her after Clueless because she can't act. And the character is just as equally as a mess. But unlike Barbara Wilson, who's actually objectively worse in the movie than everybody else, Shia LaBeouf and Mutt Williams are actually he's just equally as bad as the rest of the movie. And if you look into his character actually makes way more sense, at least on paper and idea-wise, than Barbara Wilson ever did.
Time.
I'm just gonna go ahead and start. You ready?
Do it.
Batman and Robin is a fart in an empty room. All right? The franchise was clearly on its way out by the time we get to Batman and Robin. And in counter to what you said at the beginning of your opening argument, Batgirl is not the worst character in the worst movie. She's the least important character in the least important Batman movie. She is so inconsequential and so irrelevant that to even put her out there as being the worst character of all time is an insult to bad characters everywhere, right? She doesn't do anything. She's barely in the movie. She's in the movie like 20 minutes. And even when she's in there, she's off doing her own thing in this subplot. Maybe it's upsetting that Batgirl only has this one representation on film, but that's not what we're talking about here. That is completely irrelevant. What we're talking about is the character on screen being just worthless. She doesn't do anything.
First of all, I think that at the heart of this argument, in terms of who the worst character is, I think Mutt is actually just the victim of bad writing, right? Like, he is a decent idea that was executed poorly. Batgirl, on the other hand...
No, wait. I'll let you go to this, but let me respond to that. Because Shia LaBeouf himself gave interviews where he was like, yeah, I made Mutt terrible. Like, I did that. There's a quote, and let me see if I have it in here somewhere. He says, you get to monkey swinging and things like that, and you can blame that on the writer or Steven Spielberg, but the actor's job is to bring it to life, and I just couldn't. So it's my fault. You drop balls, you drop balls. So you can't blame. He's not a victim of bad writing.
He's a victim.
He's a bad character in general.
Fine. Actually, I'll say this: he's a victim of bad execution, right? Like, ultimately, what he's saying is like there was a good idea here. Mutt Williams.
That's all you said about. All you said about Batgirl.
No. Mutt Williams was like a creative team having a good idea and everybody on board dropping the ball. Batgirl is like, she didn't need to be an idea. She has a rich history. She was already well executed. She was already well crafted. And the filmmakers and Alicia Silverstone came and took a giant dump on her face. You're ruining a character that doesn't exist. They're ruining an idea of a character that was good.
Mutt Williams is not ruining, he's not just ruining a character that doesn't exist. He's ruining a franchise. Because of his character, the nature of his character, because he was such an echo of the original trilogy, like with the father-son dynamic was just a poor man's version of what they did in Last Crusade. He was covered in scorpions in a cave instead of spiders in a cave like from Raiders. Even the monkeys that he's swinging around with, it's the same kind of monkey that showed up in Raiders of the Lost Ark. All of these echoes that show like, hey, here's the future of Indiana Jones, is what they were telling us. And we're like, no, God damn it, no. Because he was so just empty and vapid and nothing that now it completely ruined the canon of Indiana Jones.
But if
we're lucky, maybe we'll get a reboot of Indiana Jones. But even then, I don't want one. But Mutt ruined a chance at getting more Indiana Jones.
I think that's bullshit, though, because at the end of the day, you take Mutt Williams out of that movie, and you still have the refrigerator scene. You still have Professor Indiana Jones saying nuclear.
Let me tell you.
Mutt Williams is in no way single-handedly responsible for ruining the Indiana Jones franchise.
Let me tell you what you get if you pull Mutt Williams. If you pull Mutt Williams and the entire storyline of Indy like having to settle down and get married and retire and pass the torch, that's what Mutt represents, right? He is who is going to pick up the mantle of Indiana Jones. He literally picks it up at the end and almost gets it on his head. But if you pull that out, you could just get another serialized Indiana Jones adventure, which I am much more on board for.
I would say that Batgirl, not only ruining a character that was beloved and never allowing her to exist on screen, on top of killing a franchise, I think if you remove Batgirl from Batman and Robin, you get Batman Forever. I think you get a closer version of like this being a more of a kid's movie. I actually think she's so bad in it. She brings it down a whole notch.
Batgirl is not even the worst character in her own movie. Right?
Yes, she is.
You can point at Mr. Freeze, you can point at Poison Ivy, you can point at George Clooney's Batman. They're all terrible. I legitimately forgot Batgirl was in. And I didn't try to do that. I was like, oh, right. When you picked her I was like, oh, that's right. She was in that movie. Nipples on the Batsuit. Close-ups of their ass in the gearing up montage. All of the, Schwarzenegger saying things like he kicks down every door in the movie and says, freeze. Somehow they have ice skates in their boots and they fight a hockey team. All of these things are more memorable than Batgirl. And these are all things that happen, I believe, in the opening titles.
So you were talking about how not bad Batgirl was in the context of the movie, and I would say that the same applies to Mutt Williams. I think he's actually better in the context of the shitty-ass movies than Batgirl. They shoehorn in her being important, and if you remove her plotline, you get like a weird, fun kids movie. I think she sets the nail. She kills that movie so much harder because she's so much worse than anything else. But at the end of the day, with all of the flaws of both of these movies, I think Mutt, the character, not Shia LaBeouf, within the world that was built in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, he has a temper. He wants to find his dad. He's actually kind of resourceful. He's maybe pushing himself further than his abilities allow him, but he can fight. He can, even though, whatever, like the monkey swinging scene is stupid, but at least he can swing with the monkeys. He's capable of doing all of those things, and a lot of the problems with his character come from backstory information delivered and put upon him by the other characters. Barbara Wilson, on the other hand, is actively involved in her backstory. She is completely and utterly useless to the people around her. She has no excuse. She can't figure out why she's not British, and she can't fight. At least Mutt Williams can sword fight and swing from trees.
Okay, so is that your wrap up?
Yeah, for now.
Here's the thing. One, Mutt Williams participated very heavily in the downfall of Indiana Jones. The bad taste we have in our mouth about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Mutt Williams, whether completely responsible or only partially responsible, was very, in some ways, responsible for the downfall of the Indiana Jones franchise. Batgirl is in Batman and Robin, a movie that was most relevant part about Batman and Robin was the Smashing Pumpkins song that was on the soundtrack, which was actually kind of rad.
It was a good song.
Now, you can't say that it killed the franchise, which you said earlier, because, 5-6 years later, we got a whole new Batman Begins, Dark Knight, right? Like, she didn't do anything to ruin Batman for anybody. Mutt ruined Indiana Jones for a lot of people, and rightfully so. Because here's what it did. I mean, on a psychological level, what it did was point out how old Indiana Jones was, how old we've become in the interim since we started liking him. He represents the heroes having to pass a torch in a way that is force-fed to us, and in ways that we didn't ask for, right? So he's a frustrating character on so many levels. I'm not even so concerned with how bad he is as a character, as a performance, as a fully formed individual within the movie. His true crime is what he does to the incredibly iconic character that he's standing next to for the entirety of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Okay, I will say this, and this will be my final response.
Yeah, let's
because
wrap
that felt very wrap-up-y.
That's what I was intending.
Right?
Yes.
Mutt Williams is ultimately a scapegoat that makes us feel good about blaming something that we don't love on the failure of a bad idea, which was rebooting the Indiana Jones franchise. Because in reality, we don't want to admit what's true, that everything about this movie is bad, and the worst part is Indiana Jones himself. On the other hand, Batgirl and Alicia Silverstone's Batgirl, Barbara Wilson in Batman and Robin, actually does ruin a really powerful character and a really powerful franchise. Because unlike the Indiana Jones original films, which you can go and watch, you can't. There's no movie I can show my 10-year-old niece that shows her a really strong, important, and powerful Batgirl the way that she is in the comic books. I'm just
You know, quite frankly, you guys haven't said it all, but you said too much.
That's fair.
So let's wrap this up.
It's wrapped.
So there will be 2 comments below this video from CineFix. One will say, vote here if Mutt wins. You vote for that comment if you think Mutt is worse than Batgirl. The other comment will say the reverse. Vote for this comment if you think Batgirl wins, meaning Batgirl is worse than Mutt. And that is how we will find out who will proceed.
Okay, bye.
Mutt Williams is just a greaser. If you hate Mutt Williams, you hate the Fonz.
That's just dumb. That's
I know, that's
like
why I
the
didn't
dumbest
say
thing
it
I've ever heard.